Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 281, Why So Hostile? Raindrops drizzled steadily. Beneath the dark rain clouds, the battlefield dimmed considerably. Golisopod flexed its massive claws, its eerie black eyes glaring menacingly at Galate across the field. Caitlin took a deep breath, doing her best to stay calm. The situation wasn't in her favor, she'd already lost a Pokemon. Galate, Aerial Ace. She gave her command. Water plus Bug. Golisopod's typing was solid. Galate had Leaf Blade to handle water types, but Bug resisted Grass. Galate narrowed its eyes and rushed forward. First impression. Golisopod flared with greenish-yellow energy and charged. A Bug-type priority move that could only be used upon first entry. Both Pokemon dashed forward, but speed-wise, Galate clearly had the edge. As Golisopod lunged with its head lowered, Galate leapt gracefully over it. Mid-air, it twisted its body, its form outlined in white light. Aerial Ace, Flying type. Galate struck hard from above. Golisopod turned in time to raise its right claw in defense. The blow crashed against its armored arm, forcing Golisopod to stumble back a few steps. A solid hit. Flying was super effective, and with Swords Dance already boosting Galade's attack, that Aerial Ace packed a punch. Very agile, Dylan narrowed his eyes slightly. Then how about this pin missile? Golisopod let out a growl, raising both claws as it unleashed a flurry of gleaming white spikes toward the just-landed Galate. Bug-type pin missile. Psycho Cut. Galade's dual elbow blades lit with shimmering psychic energy. With practiced grace, it slashed rapidly. Clang, clang, clang. The metallic clangs echoed non-stop as Galade's precise blade work cut down every incoming projectile. Whoa! Wallace blinked. This Galate is exceptional, Steven praised. Just the finesse in those slashes showed real mastery. Galate deflected all of Pin Missile's barrage. Galate understood its trainer's intent and charged again. Razor Shell. Golisopod extended watery blades from both claws. Water type. Galate crouched low and swung a glowing elbow blade, aiming for a direct psychic strike. Golisopod raised its Razor Shell to block. Clash. The blades met with a violent ripple of force. But Golisopod growled and with its other claw, jabbed toward Galade's chest. Galate twisted, narrowly dodging, but its angle meant it couldn't follow through with a clean counter. Golisopod pressed the attack, pin missile glowing on its claw. Though Galate tried to defend again, some spikes still landed, bursting on contact and sending Galate skidding back. Low physical defense hurt. But Bug wasn't super effective, and most of the missiles had been blocked. Even with Swords Dance, still not enough pressure? Caitlin frowned. Galade's attack had been boosted by 2 stages. Normally, it should have overpowered Golisopod. Wait. The rain. Caitlin realized the rainy weather boosted Razor Shell's power. That's why it was able to match Psycho Cut. Almost out of time, she glanced at the sky. If she could stall, the rain would end, and Golisopod's power would drop. Aqua Jet. Dylan made his move. Golisopod surged forward, water energy swirling around it, a water-type priority move. Galate. Caitlin's voice sharpened. Galate raised its arms in preparation, eyes locked onto its foe. Golisopod didn't attack head-on, instead, it darted around Galade's blind spot. Quick guard. Galade's arms flared with fighting energy as it turned just in time to block. Bam! The Aqua Jet was stopped cold. Quick Guard, special move that blocks priority attacks. Psycho Cut. With the block successful, Galate slashed downward. Razor Shell.
The two blades clashed again. Galate pushed with everything it had, but couldn't overpower the water-infused claw. And then Galysopod grinned. With its other claw, it thrust another razor shell straight at Galad's chest. Galade tried to back away, but it was too late. Galade! Caitlin gasped. Galysopod's first claw had pinned Galad's right arm, preventing escape. Miss Caitlin, Dylan spoke calmly, trying the same dodge twice? That's a bit naive. Caitlin's brow tightened. Boom! The razor shell landed cleanly. Galade cried out in pain. Its low defense made it vulnerable, and the lingering rain only empowered the water-type move. I think I understand your reasoning, Dylan continued. You didn't want to trade hits because you expected the rain to end soon. Without the weather boost, you believed Galade would gain the upper hand. Also, because Galysopod has high physical defense while Galade lacks it, trading wouldn't benefit you. Not to mention Galysopod's emergency exit could force a switch at the wrong time. Everything Dylan said was spot on. Caitlin pressed her lips together. But don't worry, that just shows you're a thoughtful, capable trainer. However, top-level battles are intense. Opportunities are fleeting. Overthinking can make you hesitate. If you doubt your instincts, how can Galade unleash a brilliant aerial ace like before? As he spoke, Galysopod wasn't idle, its right claw lit up again. Bug-type pin missile. Bang 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 bang. A flurry of spikes launched at close range, bombarding Galade point-blank. The sound was deafening. Dust and debris filled the air. Sometimes, we need more than logic and experience, Dylan's voice was calm. We must also trust our instincts. When the dust cleared, Galysopod stood tall, dropping an unconscious Galade from its claw. Galade is unable to battle. Galysopod wins. Leaf announced from the side. Caitlin silently recalled her Pokemon, staring at the Pokeball for a long moment. I understand. Thank you for your guidance. She took a deep breath and bowed deeply to Dylan. Let's continue, Miss Caitlin, he replied with a smile. Yes. Caitlin sent out her third Pokemon. Gothitelle. A humanoid, dark-colored Pokemon appeared at her side, staring coldly at Galysopod. Its body resembled a black Christmas tree dress, its head adorned with ribbon-like protrusions. Beep Gothitelle. Psychic type. Astral body Pokemon. Ability, competitive. Moves, Future Sight, Psychic, Flatter, Thunderbolt, Energy Ball, Expanding Force. Info, emits powerful psychic waves that trap foes in dreams of the universe's end, an illusion both terrifying and beautiful. That description sounded wild. Lily blinked at the entry. End of the universe dreams? Sounded powerful. Shame about Galade, Gita murmured. It could have forced Galysopod's emergency exit. Instead, it was overwhelmed. Just like Dylan said, she hesitated too much, Steven shook his head. But if she learns from this, she'll improve. Top trainers needed more than planning and skill. Intuition and instinct were crucial, especially when strength was evenly matched. Cynthia said nothing, just watched her friend quietly. On the field. Gothitelle, Thunderbolt. Caitlin raised her hand. This was one of her aces, her trusted partner. Gothitelle extended its arms as golden lightning surged outward toward Galysopod. Sucker punch. Galysopod's eyes flashed black, it darted forward, dodging the lightning. Gothitelle. Caitlin called. Gothitelle's psychic aura flared, lifting it upward. Galysopod leapt into the air, claws glowing with dark energy. Dark-type priority move, Sucker Punch. Gothitelle managed to avoid a direct hit, though the attack grazed her lightly. Thunderbolt. Before Galysopod could retreat, another blast of golden lightning struck. It crackled across Galysopod's body, super effective. With a cry of pain, Galysopod vanished in a flash of white light. Emergency exit triggered. As expected, Caitlin said softly.
She'd already guessed that the earlier aerial ace had left Golisopod close to its threshold.
Gothitelle landed, her gaze cold and unflinching. Across from her, Polyper reappeared. With a squawk, it summoned another downpour. Rain resumed. That Polyper. Caitlin frowned. Its strength wasn't in battle, but in setting the weather. It made Dylan's entire water-type team stronger. And with flip turn, it was hard to catch and eliminate. But if there's a chance, she'd take it out. Caitlin narrowed her eyes at the innocent-looking bird. She was already calculating. Could Gothitelle use thunder to fry this thing on the spot? 4 times weak to electric, it was possible. Polyper looked at her, confused. Why did this lady's stare suddenly feel so intense? What the heck? I'm just a weather support bird. Why the murderous intent? I feel cold, all over. Chapter 282, So Cool. In rainy weather, thunder is notoriously hard to dodge. Everyone knows water conducts electricity. Caitlin had made up her mind. That annoying Polyper had to go. If it wasn't dealt with, it would keep resetting Rain Dance and boosting the rest of Dylan's water types. And it wasn't impossible to take down. Polyper needed to land flip turn in order to switch out. If she timed it right, she could shut it down mid-move. Polyper, flip turn. Dylan chuckled as he watched Caitlin seemingly deep in thought. He could already tell what she was planning. After all, she was staring at Polyper like it owed her money. Her intent couldn't be clearer. Polyper squawked, glowing with teal energy as it dove toward Gothitelle. Caitlin didn't rush to command. Closer distance meant higher accuracy. 10 meters. 5. 3. Polyper, protect. Gothitelle, thunder. Caitlin froze. That protect had clearly been a red on her timing. A green barrier flickered around Polyper just as Gothitelle summoned a golden flash of lightning from the storm clouds above. Crack! Thunder struck Polyper's shield, crackling on impact. Gothitelle, thunderbolt. Caitlin recovered quickly. Polyper couldn't protect forever. As the shield faded, Gothitelle fired a bolt of lightning straight at the bird. Quick attack. Polyper's wings flared, its body glowing white as it zipped out of the way. Wham! Quick attack slammed into Gothitelle, making her grunt in pain. But before Polyper could retreat, a retaliatory thunderbolt surged toward it, too fast. Polyper hadn't gotten far before the bolt caught it squarely in the body. Zap! A shriek rang out as electricity rippled through the poor bird-soaked feathers. Polyper was 4 times weak to electric. It wanted to curse. All it did was try to flip turn off the field, and she fried it like it was the main threat. Why not aim that lightning at the actual attackers, you psychopath? Thunder! Caitlin's voice now rang with excitement. Gothitelle's body glowed gold again as the sky cracked open. Boom! Lightning exploded downward. Polyper hit the ground in a smoking heap. It's like the rain was helping the other side instead, Stephen muttered with a laugh. There really wasn't much to say. Caitlin had just gone full zap mode. With thunder and thunderbolt, she gave Polyper 0 chance to escape. Polyper is unable to battle. Gothitelle wins, Leaf declared. Well done, Miss Caitlin. That was the right call, Dylan smiled as he recalled Polyper. Polyper aka Mini Kyogre. Excellent at setting rain, providing utility, and occasionally doing some damage. But its fatal flaw, quadruple electric weakness, was brutal. Rain teams weren't just about water types. In the games, Thunder has 100% accuracy in rain. So sometimes, a Polyper would set the rain only to get immediately thundered by the opponent. Rough life. Now, your next opponent. Dylan tossed another pokeball. A sleek black figure landed gracefully, one arm braced against the ground before rising to full height. A bipedal frog-like Pokemon, entirely jet black, with large white bubbles on its limbs and a red tongue scarf curled around its neck. Ooh, a shiny Greninja. Wallace's eyes sparkled. Beep Greninja. Water/dark type. Ninja Pokemon. Ability, Battle Bond.
Moves: Water Shuriken, Night Slash, Aerial Ace, Hydro Pump, Hydro Cannon, Liquidation. Info: a ninja-like Pokemon that vanishes like a shadow and strikes with blinding speed, cleaving enemies with blades of water.
Wait, hold up, Battle Bond? Rotom, can you show me that again?
Wallace blinked, peering at the Pokédex.
Greninja was supposed to have Torrent or Protean. Where did this third ability come from?
Battle Bond: when it defeats a Pokemon, attack, special attack, and speed increase.
Only activates once per battle. When the bond is strong enough, Greninja transforms. Transform?
Wallace's brain stuttered.
Transform into what? A Dark-type Greninja. Caitlin narrowed her eyes. With Dark typing, Gothitel's psychic moves were useless, but that was fine. Careful, Miss Caitlin, Dylan smiled. My Greninja's quite strong.
Among his water types, the shiny Greninja was by far the biggest surprise.
It's not at its peak yet, but one day, it'll be the ace of my water team. Well, if you don't count legendaries.
When it evolved in the training sim, it unexpectedly gained the Battle Bond ability.
In the games, this was exclusive to Special Event Greninja and couldn't be bred.
Clearly, this world had its own quirks.
And Dylan wasn't complaining.
Even better, his Greninja didn't just get a stat boost, it could also transform it well into the Ash Greninja form, gaining both power and cool factor. I'm ready, Caitlin replied calmly. If Dylan said it was strong, she believed him.
Excellent. Let's go then. Dylan smiled.
He'd give her a taste, but hold off on the transformation for now.
Greninja Water Shuriken.
Greninja stood tall, arm raised.
A massive spinning blade of water formed and launched forward, cutting through rain and air alike. At the same time, Greninja charged behind it. Dodge. Caitlin didn't hesitate. Gothitelle used psychic energy to float upward. Thunderbolt. Lightning crackled and surged straight toward the incoming frog. Quick attack.
Greninja vanished in a flash of white light.
Zoom. Caitlin's eyes widened. That's speed. Wham!
Before Gothitelle could react, pain exploded across her skull. A blur of black had appeared right in front of her.
Thunder! Caitlin snapped back. If he wanted to rush in, fine. He was asking for it. Night Slash.
A black, whip-like leg lashed upward, striking like a blade.
Boom! Gothitelle was sent flying, crashing hard onto the battlefield below. Gothitelle! Caitlin's face paled. That hit was brutal. Dark Pulse. But Dylan wasn't done. Still airborne, Greninja raised a hand and summoned black energy. Rings of dark power spiraled toward Gothitelle. Krakum! Still reeling from the previous hit, Gothitelle had no chance. The field exploded with dark energy. Greninja landed soundlessly, arms crossed, watching through the clearing smoke. Unsurprisingly, Gothitelle had fainted. Gothitelle is unable to battle. Greninja wins. Leaf was clearly stunned as she announced the result. A glow radiated from Greninja Battle Bond triggered, boosting its stats. How is it this cool?
That's pure style.
Wallace's eyes sparkled as he gripped Steven's arm. Steven! You saw that, right? I need one. I need a Greninja like that. Why are you telling me?
That's Kalos' starter, Steven replied flatly.
I want a shiny one too. The black color is so chic. Come on, use your connections, hook me up.
Steven stared at him like he'd grown a second head.
Fine. I'll ask around. Wallace beamed. That Greninja is seriously powerful. Caitlin said softly as she recalled Gothitelle. It is, Dylan nodded. One of my most trusted water types. Now, for my final Pokemon. Please, Dylan, let me show you my full strength.
With a calm smile, Caitlin floated her last Pokeball into the air. It opened with a flash and a massive metallic claw slammed onto the field.
Metagross.
In the stands, Steven and Wallace both sat up straighter.
Deep Metagross. Steel/Psychic type. Iron Leg Pokemon. Ability, Clear Body. Moves, Meteor Mash, Psychic, Double Edge, Flash Cannon, Bullet Punch, Earthquake. Info, uses its 4 legs and massive body to pin prey before crunching them with the jaws on its belly.
It was clearly well trained. But Dylan's eyes immediately locked onto the gem-like orb embedded in its head.
Metagross is my ace. And I've been lucky, Caitlin said.
My family happened to acquire a megastone and it happened to be the right one.
Please, let me show you.
She raised her right arm.
The key stone on her bracelet glowed. Meta. Metagross growled as light engulfed its body. Mega Evolution. Impressive, Dylan applauded. You really do have amazing luck, Miss Caitlin.
Steven, in the spectator seats, was practically burning with envy.
Well then. If you're going all out, then I'll do the same. Dylan grinned. He hadn't planned on it.
But she started it. So now, he was going to let Greninja transform.
Chapter 283, I want one too.
The brilliant light of Mega Evolution surged, and soon, it faded into prismatic glimmers.
Meta. A deep, metallic growl echoed as an even larger, more intimidating Metagross floated before Caitlin.
Its 4 original limbs had fused into powerful arms extended forward, and 4 smaller limbs protruded from its back.
The metallic X on its face had turned golden, and a spike jutted from its chin. Mega Metagross. Deep Metagross, Mega Evolution, Steel/Psychic type, Iron Leg Pokemon.
Ability, Tough Claws.
Moves. Info, with Mega Evolution, its brain is overstimulated, giving it a ruthless, win-at-all-costs nature. Mega Evolution. Steven's eyes blazed with envy. As the most famous Metagross trainer in the world, that Pokemon wasn't just Steven's ace, it was his legacy. Just as Garchomp was Cynthia's, Milotic was Wallace's, and Dragonite was Lance's. And now he was certain Metagross could Mega Evolve. Not bad at all.
And it even got tough claws, Wallace commented, eyeing the Mega Metagross with interest. Metagross already had monstrous physical power, and Mega Evolution giving it tough claws, an ability that boosts contact moves, meant its melee capabilities would be terrifying. I wonder if my Milotic can Mega Evolve, Wallace mused.
If it can, then she can stay my ace forever. On the battlefield. Mr. Dylan, this is my final ace. Caitlin called out with poise. Impressive.
In that case, we'll go all out as well, Dylan replied with a calm smile.
Greninja.
Greninja let out a low cry as a spiraling pillar of water erupted around it, forming a towering vortex that cloaked its entire body.
What is that? Caitlin blinked, confused.
In the stands, Cynthia and the others were equally surprised.
It didn't look like a Mega Evolution, Dylan hadn't even used a keystone. Boom!
With a loud crash, the vortex exploded in a spray of water.
Emerging from the mist was the cold, imposing form of a transformed Greninja. Its appearance wasn't drastically different, just more refined.
A red mark now adorned its forehead, black hair-like protrusions flared from the sides of its head, and most notably, a massive water shuriken was strapped across its back.
Bond Transformation Ash Greninja. What the heck? Wallace's jaw dropped. It really transformed?
Rotom, identify that form, he begged.
But Rotom's analysis returned the same data as before. That was expected. Bond Transformation was functionally like Mega Evolution, except it didn't require a stone and didn't drastically alter the base form. This is Bond Transformation, Dylan explained warmly. It's a special trait found only in certain Greninja.
When their bond with their trainer is strong enough, they transform through that connection.
In game terms? Max friendship. And Dylan and Greninja?
Their bond was off the charts.
Once transformed, Greninja's power increases dramatically. Miss Caitlin, be careful.
Greninja, the ninja Pokemon, was built for speed and deadly burst damage, and this form turned it into a full-on assassin.
Yes, I understand. Caitlin grew more serious. With its dark typing, her Metagross's psychic moves would be useless, and it would be at a type disadvantage.
But she believed in her ace. Plus, the rain had stopped, so the water-type boost was gone.
Metagross, Bullet Punch.
Mega Metagross surged forward, its massive body somehow still fast, arms glowing with metallic energy, Steel-type priority move. It didn't have just 2 fists, Metagross had 4. A flurry of punches ranged toward Greninja.
Water Shuriken. Greninja coolly pulled the massive shuriken from its back.
Water condensed and spun rapidly, growing larger with every rotation.
With a mighty swing, Greninja launched it at the oncoming Metagross. Boom!
Metagross parried the shuriken with a flurry of blows, the water exploding in a massive spray.
But by the time it looked up, Greninja was already there.
Its arm gleamed with a dark purple edge as it struck.
Night Slash. Meteor Mash. Caitlin called out quickly.
Metagross raised a fist wreathed in silver light, one of the strongest steel-type contact moves.
Dodge, Dylan said calmly. Greninja gracefully sidestepped.
The glowing meteor-like fist whooshed past its face, barely disturbing the air.
But Greninja didn't flinch, its gaze stayed locked on its target. So cool. Night Slash. Dylan followed up. Greninja slashed upward, landing a solid hit across Metagross's face.
Metagross growled in pain.
Even with high defense, dark moves hit hard, and Greninja's offensive power was no joke in this form. Don't let it get away. Metagross. Caitlin gritted her teeth as Metagross lunged again. Dodge. Greninja leapt into the air, one leg glowing with dark energy. Night Slash again. Bam!
Another crushing kick to Metagross's head, sending it reeling.
Metagross. Caitlin's breath hitched. Greninja didn't even fly, it just jumped. Which meant it was wide open in the air. Mega Metagross lunged again, but Greninja used the rebound to lift itself even higher, avoiding the next blow. Then, wham!
Another spinning kick from above.
Third Night Slash.
Metagross howled and crashed into the ground.
3 successive strikes, this was heavy even for a Metagross. Beautifully done. Elegant and stylish. Wallace gushed. Steven. I want a Greninja too. Why are you telling me? Steven groaned.
Compared to this, that Mega Metagross looked like a slowpoke, Gita said.
Because its psychic typing was completely useless, Steven nodded. Its telekinetic support was the key, but Greninja's dark typing shuts that down.
Even though Metagross wasn't slow, it simply couldn't keep up with the speed and agility of Bond Greninja.
It looked clumsy by comparison. On the field. Dark Pulse.
Greninja extended a hand, dark energy rippling and pulsing as it shot toward Metagross.
Protect.
A green shield rose just in time as the pulse exploded against it.
Boom.
Metagross staggered up from the blast, roaring in anger, and then charged through the smoke.
Water Shuriken.
This time, Greninja formed 2 spinning blades but didn't throw them, he held them. As Metagross closed in with Bullet Punch, Greninja blocked and parried with his dual water blades.
Clang! Clang! Clang!
The 2 clashed in rapid, brutal close quarters.
But one blow slipped through, Metagross landed a hit. Greninja grunted and leapt back, then hurled both shuriken at once. Boom!
They struck Metagross directly, halting its momentum. Direct engagement's not gonna work, Dylan muttered.
Time to use mobility. Meteor Mash. Encouraged by the brief success, Caitlin pushed forward.
Metagross launched itself at Greninja, fists glowing. Greninja backpedaled rapidly, eyes sharp, expression calm.
Dodge, Dylan whispered. Greninja lunged forward instead, slipping past Metagross in a perfect sidestep. Metagross. Caitlin's heart dropped. Night Slash. Greninja spun in midair, landing behind Metagross and kicked hard. Wham!
Metagross turned too late.
Another hit. And another. 5 consecutive Night Slashes. Even a Mega Metagross couldn't handle that. Water Shuriken. Greninja leapt high, summoning one last massive spinning blade.
Water surged wildly, the shuriken growing bigger, turning gold.
Golden Water Shuriken. With a fierce throw, the golden blade slammed into the just rising Metagross. Krakum.
It pinned the steel type down and spun furiously, water spraying everywhere. When the mist cleared, Metagross was lying unconscious in a soaked crater, its megaform dissipated.
Caitlyn's lips pressed into a thin line, her expression dim. Metagross is unable to battle. Greninja wins. All of Caitlyn's Pokémon have fainted. The winner is Gym Leader Dylan. Caitlyn's challenge has failed.
Greninja landed silently, arms crossed, expression unreadable, its cold, solitary stance emanating deadly elegance.
Dylan gave a satisfied nod. Not bad for its debut. Chapter 284, Dylan, I'll give you 10 babies.
She'd lost, the gym challenge ended in failure.
Caitlyn had never imagined this outcome. Even after her journey through Unova, she remained a proud noblewoman at heart.
Her temperament had softened, her composure matured, but deep down, she was still proud.
And today, she'd lost. In a 4 vs 4 battle, she'd only defeated one opponent, a weather-setting support bird.
Even her ace, the Mega Metagross, had been taken down almost effortlessly.
If Dylan hadn't had Greninja block with Water Shuriken for fun, even Bullet Punch wouldn't have landed. Caitlyn.
Watching her stand in silence, shoulders heavy, Cynthia felt complicated emotions well up.
It was an excellent battle, Miss Caitlyn.
A warm, gentle voice broke the silence.
Caitlyn looked up. Dylan was already approaching, that striking black Greninja loyally following at his side.
I must have embarrassed myself, Gym Leader Dylan. Caitlyn lowered her gaze, her tone tinged with shame. She couldn't even muster anger because her defeat had been that one-sided. His Pokémon hadn't seemed overwhelmingly more powerful than hers, yet she had lost completely.
Not at all. Miss Caitlyn, your skills are impressive. You remained calm and composed throughout the battle. Even when errors happened, you didn't panic. No trainer is perfect. No one can guarantee every choice they make in battle is correct. That's part of the journey. Dylan's smile was as warm as sunlight. You didn't defeat me this time, but I believe you're worthy of this badge.
He opened a small velvet case, revealing a beautifully crafted badge with a shimmering aquamarine teardrop gem.
The water-type Rhoda badge.
Caitlyn's eyes flickered with a soft glow as she stared at the elegant emblem.
I want that. Wallace practically leapt out of his seat, eyes glued to the badge.
He loved this one way more than the normal-type version.
Can I really? Caitlyn hesitated.
She adored the badge, but her noble pride told her she hadn't earned it.
Of course, Dylan said gently.
The badge goes to those I recognize as worthy.
You've earned it.
Take it, Caitlyn, Cynthia called out.
It's Dylan's way of showing his respect. Even Wallace only managed to beat one of his Pokémon and he got a badge too. Wallace sulked. Why bring him into this? So hurtful.
Caitlyn glanced at Wallace, her pressure suddenly lifting.
So even the former champion of Hoenn only took down one Pokémon? She felt much better. Thank you so much, Gym Leader Dylan.
With both hands, she reverently accepted the badge and bowed slightly.
You're very welcome. Come back and challenge me again when you're ready.
With the battle over, Dylan led Caitlyn, Cynthia, and the others back to the guest lounge. Another one got a Rhoda badge, muttered the birdkeeper, scratching his chin. She's not ordinary, the psychic said.
I just looked her up. She's a newly appointed Elite Four in Unova.
The match result didn't look great, but anyone who could defeat even one of Dylan's Pokémon was already among the rare few.
No wonder.
And those others too, they're special. That was champion Cynthia from Sinnoh, said the older woman, her eyes sparkling.
Cynthia was her idol. She had to get an autograph later. In the lounge. Dylan, I heard from Professor Oren you caught a bunch of Paradox Pokemon in Area Zero? Geeta asked after sipping her tea. That's right. I caught quite a few, Dylan nodded. They're rare in the outside world and pretty strong. Paradox Pokemon?
Stephen leaned forward, intrigued. They live in Area Zero in Paldea, Geeta explained. But because of their violent temperaments, they've been sealed off from the public to protect people. Wallace, your iron bundle is one of them, she added.
Oh right, Dylan mentioned that to me, Wallace recalled. If you have extras, Dylan, I'd love to trade, Geeta offered. You could just go to Area Zero and catch them yourself, couldn't you? Dylan blinked.
Geeta was strong enough to survive a run through Area Zero, at least without going too deep.
Wild ones don't guarantee good stats.
Trading with you is much easier, she smiled. Though the real reason was that she wanted to build a stronger bond with Dylan.
I see. Dylan raised an eyebrow. Just let me know what you're looking for, I'll find it.
Her words weren't empty. As chairwoman and top champion of Paldea, she could practically get anything short of legends.
Any steel types among them? Stephen perked up. Steel was his favorite. There are. Lily, could you grab them? Sure thing, big bro.
Lily ran off, returning with a silver case from Dylan's room.
There are 22 known paradox species, but 8 are unique. I caught multiples of the other 14. He opened the case.
14 pokeballs gleamed inside. These guys are dangerous.
Aside from the ones I've raised, I don't let them roam the backyard too prone to fighting over territory. He labeled each ball and set them out. No need to hold back, take your pick. I trust you all. Dylan had planned this. Paradox Pokemon were rare, and entrusting them to capable friends like Cynthia and the others built goodwill that could pay off down the road. Dylan, what about Iron Treads and Iron Thorns? Stephen asked. Iron Treads is a fast, tanky physical attacker. Iron Thorns hits like a truck. Dylan explained briefly, showing their entries via Rotom Dex. In the end, Stephen picked Iron Treads. Geeta chose Sandy Shocks. Cynthia took Iron Hands. Caitlin hesitated, but upon seeing Screamtail's data, accepted it. She made a mental note, she would repay Dylan for this favor. Dylan was pleased. Favors like these were more valuable than money, and these people could make those favors count. Soon, I'll head into Ultra Space for some Ultra Beasts. They were even rarer than Paradox Pokemon. Some had even been classified as legendaries in the past. At least with Paradox Pokemon, you could just go to Area Zero. But with Ultra Beasts, unless the Ultra Wormholes opened, you weren't seeing one. An Alola trip was definitely on the horizon. Dylan glanced at the gentle Lily beside him. He'd take care of her past. After chatting for a while, he gave them a tour of his backyard, lush terrain, wild Pokemon, and so many of his own it felt like a mini ecosystem. By dusk, Dylan treated them to dinner at Rhoda Town's best restaurant, then offered them rooms for the night at the gym. There were plenty to spare. Around 8 p.m. in the backyard. Thanks for today, Leaf. Lying on a picnic mat beneath a starry sky, Dylan smiled at the girl beside him. Well, as long as you know. You're my bro after all, Leaf beamed, her eyes crinkled in amusement. But Dylan, what if Giovanni goes back to his old ways? You helped him escape. Leaf frowned slightly. She didn't mind Dylan's antics, but she hated Team Rocket. He won't, for now. He's got personal stuff to deal with. You know who Silver's father is, right? Question mark. It's Giovanni. What? Leaf froze, stunned. Giovanni, the head of Team Rocket, was Silver's dad? It's true. I saw photos of him and his son. It's definitely Silver. Giovanni's kid went missing around the same time you did. But Silver hates criminal organizations, Leaf murmured, shocked. She was sure that if Silver found out now, he'd reject it outright. Let's not tell him for now. Dylan nodded.
Then he pulled out a pokeball and handed it to her. A reward for all your help.
Another Pokemon?
You're so boring sometimes, Leaf teased, but took the ball anyway, curious to see what he picked this time.
Open it. See if you like it. Dylan didn't mind the teasing. He was confident she'd love it. All right. Leaf clicked the button. A burst of light, followed by a sharp cry. A magnificent bird Pokemon unfurled its wings, its icy blue glow shimmering beneath the night sky.
Leaf stared, momentarily dazed, then her eyes lit up.
You like it? Dylan asked, watching her glowing smile.
Thanks to a certain electric pig, her fear of birds had mostly faded after the power plant incident.
Wah! Dylan! Shut up, I love you. Leaf squealed, flinging herself into Dylan's arms, hugging his neck tightly. She never imagined he'd gift her this. It was way too precious. How could she possibly repay him? Dylan!
I'll give you 10 babies.
She had no choice.
Time to sacrifice herself.
Dylan blinked. Submissive girlfriend energy. Chapter 285, The Masked Man. Woo's so pretty, so cool, I love it.
Leaf clung to the neck of the ice blue bird, rubbing her cheek affectionately against its feathers.
The Articuno looked visibly confused by the overwhelming affection. Yes, it was Articuno. One of the legendary bird Pokemon from Kanto, Dylan's gift to Leaf.
Not long ago, Giovanni had handed over the Articuno and Moltres captured by Team Rocket to Dylan.
Dylan kept the Moltres for himself, but since he already had an Articuno, he decided to give this one to Leaf as a gift. After all, if it weren't for Leaf's help, he wouldn't have had nearly as much fun. Take good care of it, Leaf. You should be near champion level by now, right? Dylan asked. Humph, don't underestimate me.
I already am champion level, Leaf grinned proudly, lifting her chin. She was happy with her progress. Sure, she didn't advance as fast as Red or Blue, but she wasn't the type to compare. For her, being champion level within a year was already amazing. Impressive, Dylan gave her a thumbs up in approval. Leaf happily went back to bonding with Articuno, she absolutely adored it. After all, it was a legendary Pokemon, and Dylan had given it to her. Johto region. In a secret underground base near Cyanwood Town. A figure cloaked in black stood still, wearing a terrifying mask. Boss. Karen, now donning a white mask, stepped quietly into the base, her usual laid-back demeanor completely gone. She bowed respectfully. Where is Will? The cold, distorted voice rasped. He was captured by the Kanto League, Karen said softly, licking her dry lips. Silence fell. A chilling cold permeated the air. Freezing, bone-deep cold. Goosebumps covered her skin, but she didn't dare speak. She knew this was the masked man's rage simmering. Useless, the masked man hissed. He hadn't expected Will, after completing the training he'd assigned, to still get caught. Sure, he knew Will and Karen had their tendencies, but to land himself in prison? Unacceptable. Master, here's the rainbow wing, Karen offered a faintly glowing feather, its iridescence subtle and beautiful. No news on the silver wing? The masked man asked, gloved hand reaching out. No. I'm very sorry. Keep searching. With Rocket dismantled in Kanto, it's time. Karen, I want you to take control of the remnants in Johto. My patience is wearing thin. You understand what I mean, don't you? His cold, dead eyes behind the mask bore into Karen's soul. A shiver ran up her spine. Yes. I understand. I'll move faster, Karen quickly responded, taking a deep breath. But boss. Giovanni's still active. He's powerful, she hesitated. She knew she couldn't handle Giovanni on her own. If he gets in the way, I'll support you remotely, the masked man said flatly. Contact Gamma and Carter. They'll assist you.
Understood. As he left without another word, Karen exited the base as well, dabbing cold sweat from her brow. Her face was pale. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Even as a champion-level trainer herself, Karen felt like a powerless child in front of him.
She couldn't even fathom how terrifying his true strength was. Taking over Team Rocket, huh? Calming down, Karen twirled a lock of her blue-gray hair, curious. Would Giovanni care about her taking over Rocket's remnants? Probably not.
The masked man had already promised to step in if needed.
No surprises there. That shorty Chuck is gonna have fun with this. She smirked playfully. This could get interesting. Rhoda Gym, backyard. Dylan took out his phone and made a call. Hello?
A deep, magnetic voice answered.
Giovanni Senpai, where are you now? Tidying up loose ends at Viridian Gym. And Dylan, thanks again for everything this time. In the backyard of Viridian Gym, Giovanni stood before a fire pit.
The flames danced, casting shadows across his face. He was burning all of Team Rocket's old records.
Kanto's rocket team was done. No need to thank me. So, what's next for you? I've got some personal business.
Might head to Giotto, Giovanni said calmly.
Giotto, huh? If it's convenient, would you mind taking Zinnia with you? She needs to head there too. Something with the Giotto Pokemon Association? You're already in the loop, huh?
She mentioned it in passing.
Heh, fine, I'll go with her.
I owe her anyway for what she did for Rocket.
Giovanni paused.
He hated owing favors, even with his reputation as a source of darkness. But if someone helped him, he remembered it.
Perfect, Dylan smiled. With Giovanni accompanying Zinnia, there'd be no issues.
Not that he thought Zinnia couldn't handle it alone, she was a powerhouse Dragon-type champion, but still, better safe than sorry.
What about your gym? I've left it in Petrol's hands for now. Whether he'd return someday, who knew? Giovanni turned to gaze at the stately Viridian Gym. How many years had passed? 10? 20? He wasn't sure anymore. This trip to Giotto wasn't just to settle things, it was to visit Cyanwood City, see if his illness could be cured. But most importantly, to find Silver. All right. If you need help, let me know, Dylan added. Unless you plan to take down the entire league or mess with Arceus, there's not much I can't handle. Ha, you're something else, Dylan.
But I don't want to owe you too much, Giovanni admitted with a sigh. He, Giovanni, Team Rocket's former boss, didn't like debt.
And frankly, I don't have much time left.
He rubbed his temples, weary.
He hadn't told anyone, not even his loyal secretary Midori.
But he trusted Dylan.
Dylan knew who he truly was, yet never exposed him. And frankly, Dylan didn't need leverage to bring him down if he wanted to. You're sick? Dylan asked. Yeah. Terminal illness, incurable with modern medicine. Giovanni didn't mind the blunt question.
Human medicine might not work, but that doesn't mean there's no cure, Dylan shrugged.
Question mark. Giovanni paused.
Dylan said it so casually, like they were discussing dinner plans.
What humans can't do, Pokemon can, Dylan continued. You're thinking too small. You mean? Yep. Just in Kanto, we've got Ho-Oh known to resurrect the dead. Even if you're ashes, it could bring you back. A little illness? No problem. There's also Shalebi, the time-traveling grass mythical. And in Kalos, Xerneas, who can grant life.
If Xerneas doesn't want you to die, you literally can't.
Even if you try. Dylan grinned, listing examples.
And he wasn't just blowing smoke, these were real. Like AZ, the ancient Kalos king, who built the ultimate weapon powered by Pokemon, lives just to revive his beloved Floette. When Floette realized the cost of her resurrection, she left him. AZ, having used the weapon, was cursed with eternal life. He wandered for 3,000 years.
So yeah, Xerneas' life energy? very real. Just get that fancy rainbow deer to shine a light on Giovanni, and he'd be right as rain. I see. Giovanni fell into thought. Dylan was right, he'd limited his thinking to human science.
But Ho-Oh and Shalebi, those he'd heard of, being from Kanto.
Still, those two were notoriously hard to find. If you want, I can help you find Ho-Oh, Dylan offered with a grin.
And he could, because Leaf had a rainbow wing that could call Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh had gifted it to her, saying she could summon it in times of danger. A heartfelt gesture, though Dylan thought it was pretty useless. Leaf worked for him. If she was in danger, he'd protect her.
Besides, in Kanto, who could threaten her other than the masked man? And if Ho-Oh flew in against him, that'd just be suicide.
Ho-Oh would probably show up and curse her out. You set me up, you little.
Yeah.
Pretty, but otherwise not very helpful.
Dylan, I just said I don't want to owe you. How the heck would I repay this? Giovanni asked, exasperated. No need to be so formal. It's simple, Dylan said, eyes gleaming. Someday, I might ask you for a favor. Don't refuse, that's all. It won't go against your beliefs, and I promise it won't be bad for you. Fine. I owe you one, Dylan. Whatever it is, just say the word.
It'd be rude to refuse after someone offered to save your life.
When are you free? Give it some time. I'm still doing okay. I leave for Giotto tomorrow. Now that death wasn't looming, Giovanni smiled faintly. Next priority, find silver. He wasn't in a rush. His body could probably last another year or two.
If he found another way to cure himself before then, maybe he wouldn't need Dylan after all.
Sounds good. And what about Giotto's rocket remnants?
I've lost, Giovanni said flatly.
My team rocket died in Saffron. In other words, he didn't care about Giotto's branch anymore. I see, Dylan nodded. After a bit more conversation, he ended the call. All done?
Leaf popped up beside him, blinking curiously.
So what do you need Giovanni for?
She'd only caught parts of the conversation, but enough to get the gist.
Her curiosity was through the roof.
You'll find out eventually, Dylan said, stretching lazily.
TCH, mysterious much? Time to sleep. Night, Leaf. You want me to sleep with you? Well, if it's you, Dylan. Down bad. Dylan rolled his eyes. She was definitely messing with him on purpose. Ignoring her indignant protests, Dylan headed back inside. With Sinnoh cleared, he'd unlocked Giotto's map. Time to finish Giotto soon too. Which of the Sinnoh legendaries should he pick?
Before entering the growth simulation, Dylan had already started considering which dragon to choose. After all, the Sinnoh trio were something else.
Chapter 286, Kanto has gone too far.
According to Sinnoh's myth, the beginning story. In the beginning, there was only chaos, waves of disorder where everything was mixed together.
At the center, an egg appeared.
From this egg, the origin emerged. The origin created two beings, time began to flow, space began to expand, and then from its own body, it birthed three more lives. Through the prayers of the two, matter came into being. Through the prayers of the three, spirit was born. After creating the world, the origin fell into slumber. This story describes none other than Arceus, the original one, and its time-space trio. Dialga, time, Palkia, space, and Giratina, antimatter, along with the three lake guardians. But in truth, the story is incomplete, for Arceus had one final aspect. After obtaining the plates of Arceus, each bears an inscription about its nature. Thunder Plate, the raging aspect that brings forth storms of fury. Spooky Plate, the frenzied aspect that was granted the world's reverse. The Sinnoh trio each embody time, space, and antimatter, Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, creators of the material world. The Lake Trio connects time and space to forge the mind. These are the 6 Pokemon Arceus first created. Yes, even the weaklings known as the Mushroom Trio, Lake Guardians, have surprisingly high divine rank. As legend goes, Giratina was banished to the distortion world for its violent nature, a place with no sky or earth, only a mirror of the real world. Officially, Giratina is the renegade Pokemon.
Who was it rebelling against? The answer is obvious. No wonder it's so hostile toward Dialga and Palkia, always looking for a chance to beat them down. It's probably compensation for being exiled while its siblings remained in glory. Can't fight the creator? Bully your brothers instead.
And to be fair, those two were pretty terrible in the movies, so it's not unjustified revenge. Dylan wasn't dwelling on all that now though. Inside the growth simulation, he had already caught all three of the Sinnoh legends.
Once he finishes Johto, he can bring one back to reality.
So this time, he's pushing through Johto as fast as possible, no leisurely training arcs.
He figured he'd be in the Hall of Fame within a little over a month. Perfect. He just wondered, once Arceus wakes up in the Hall of Origin and finds out it suddenly has a son, will it come take a look? It'll probably be fine. I wonder if this world's llama is still intact.
In the simulation, Dylan casually used Meowa to crush a youngster Joey clone, all while pondering the real-world Arceus. Under normal circumstances, Arceus shouldn't be damaged.
But in the movie timeline, things are different.
That Arceus felt betrayed by a human it trusted.
Its heart filled with hatred, it ceased to be a god and became a demon.
Once it healed its wounds, it returned to the world for revenge.
That would be a problem. Even if it is that Arceus, as long as it hasn't lost the jewel of life, we might still have a chance, right? Dylan wasn't certain. Arceus's portrayal is just that terrifying.
Even without all of its plates, it could still mop the floor with the creation trio. A few hits, and Dialga was crawling on the ground, nearly dead. And that was with missing plates. In the Pokemon universe, Arceus is in a league of its own. While a handful of legendaries may be able to create or destroy worlds, Arceus goes cosmic, possibly multiversal. It single-handedly drags the Pokemon power scale to that level.
No one else even comes close.
Still, if it's just the movie version weakened Arceus clone, maybe it's not totally hopeless, though this was just Dylan speculating.
He'd have to visit Sinnoh in person to check.
All he'd need is to confirm the historical records in Machina.
The next day. Unova region, Oplucid City. Home to the Unova League's headquarters.
Inside the conference room, Unova's officials wore long faces.
What now? One councilman asked hesitantly. What else can we do? Send Alder to drive Lance out, another rolled his eyes. Alder?
League President Francis looked toward the man in question, who had just returned to the city.
Alder.
Look, everyone, the way Lance came storming in like that, if I tried to stop him, I think I'd get flattened, Alder shrugged, scratching his head.
Yes, Kanto's champion Lance had suddenly arrived in Unova.
Normally, champions from other regions have to formally apply before visiting, at least make a show of protocol.
Lance did not.
He just charged in, full force, clearly looking for something. The room fell silent again.
They all knew that Alder wasn't in top shape anymore. Asking him to remove Lance was hopeless.
Better to hope the Kanto League calls him back.
Kanto has gone too far. Do they think Unova has no backbone? Another councilman snapped, indignant. Their gym leader already took our dragon god, and now Lance is running wild like it's his backyard? He was practically in tears. Unova had its own regional legacy, and now that Sacred Dragon of Legend was taken away by an outsider. And they were still getting bullied? So what if they're the strongest region? That's no excuse.
Francis rubbed his temples. The truth was, Unova did lack strength right now. Alder just wasn't what he used to be. I already contacted Chairman Goodshow.
He assured me Lance won't cross the line. Francis sighed.
He didn't know what Goodshow was thinking, but he trusted the man had his reasons.
What about next year's World Championships? Another councilman asked carefully.
Right now, Unova had no top-tier candidates.
Even if they forced Alder into the initial Masters 8, he'd just get knocked out immediately. It'd be humiliating.
The championship is a global initiative, we can't opt out. Every other region agreed. Francis sighed again.
Gaylor must be desperate for clout. Sure, Leon is strong, but how's he supposed to beat Dylan? A middle-aged councilman scoffed. After all, the whole tournament was Gaylor's chairman Rose's idea.
I'll resume intense training and step down by year's end, Alder said, taking a deep breath.
Iris from Oplucid has already grown stronger than me now.
They needed someone in the Masters 8.
And I've got my eyes on 2 girls with great potential. They'll shine next year. Also, I'm thinking of recruiting N.
Alder hesitated, then added.
N and Getsis had already been rescued by the Black Dragon.
But during N's imprisonment, Alder had spoken with him often and realized N wasn't evil. Just idealistic to a fault. And from what Dylan said, N had been kept away from Getsis, who had started blaming him for everything.
If you think there's a chance, give it a shot.
We trust you, Francis smiled.
Alder had always been loyal to Unova.
If anything, his recent decline was because of past sacrifices for the region.
If N becomes our new champion, Unova will rise again, another councilman added. Chosen by the Dragon of Ideals, N's strength was unquestionable. If only we could recruit Dylan too, Alder muttered. He wondered how Caitlin's trip to Kanto was going. If she could rope Dylan into Unova? That would be checkmate. Back in Rhoda, Kanto. Ha? Lance went to Unova? Dylan blinked after receiving a call from Goodshow. Yeah. He's after Zekrom, the chairman sighed, rubbing his forehead. Must have been the Goldenrod City incident that shook him. But Zekrom already belongs to N. Dylan mulled it over. If Zekrom were still dormant in its stone form, Lance, with his qualifications, might have awakened it easily.
This was special manga Lance with in-game qualities. His ideals were powerful, if extreme, but that's exactly what Zekrom cares about.
So yeah, it would have worked. But now? Zekrom already chose N. Would it abandon him to follow Lance?
Dylan wasn't sure, but he doubted it.
Dragons like that don't switch partners on a whim.
In Black and White, even after Hilbert beat N and shattered his worldview, Zekrom didn't leave him.
Exactly. And Lance didn't even file an application. That's against League protocol, Dylan. You get what I mean? President Francis from Unova already reached out to me.
Even Kanto Council members are starting to criticize Lance now.
Sigh.
Goodshow was beyond stressed.
The Goldenrod City mess had just ended yesterday, and now this? He could feel more hair falling out already. I tried calling Lance myself. He's not answering. Dylan, could you give it a shot?
He had no idea what Lance was thinking.
Did he really think he could take Zekrom from N?
I'll try, but Lance is stubborn.
Odds aren't great, Dylan replied. Thanks. Just see what you can do. Goodshow had a bad feeling about all of this.
It seemed Lance really had been deeply affected.
Got it. Dylan hung up and dialed Lance.
As expected, no answer. At this rate, a falling out between Lance and the Kanto League wasn't far off.
Unova, Champion's Path.
A red-haired youth stepped onto the sacred trail.
Chapter 287, I'm the one who deserves it the most.
In the far north of the Unova region lay the former headquarters of the Unova League.
Though the League had since moved to Oplucid City, the ruins of the old site still remained. Lance soared above on his Aerodactyl, gazing coldly down at the abandoned grounds below.
According to information extracted from one of the 7 sages of Team Plasma, it was here.
No doubt about it. And how had Lance made the sage talk? Easy.
There's no need for courtesy when dealing with members of evil organizations. After all, what Lance hated most was evil organizations.
Dragonair, Draco Meteor.
His crimson hair whipping in the wind, Lance's face was stone cold. 2 Dragonair appeared before him, their voices echoing in the air as they summoned stars that swirled skyward.
Boom!
The twin meteors exploded high above like a celestial fireworks show. Dragon stars trailing flames fell like a meteor shower.
Breathtaking, yet deadly. Boom! Boom boom boom. The bombardment shook the earth violently. Dust filled the air.
The old League site cracked under the onslaught of falling meteors. Then, rising from beneath the ground, a massive fortress emerged.
Team Plasma's castle. N's castle.
Lance's mouth curled into a cold smirk.
The castle gates opened. N and Getsus stepped out, flanked by surviving plasma grunts.
Although their organization had been crushed by Dylan, many had still scattered and survived.
After Zekrom rescued N and Getsus, they'd returned here to regroup and rebuild.
A second wind, though the previous defeat had dealt a crushing blow to their morale. And now, the rift between N and Getsus had only grown deeper.
That man. The Kanto champion, Lance?
Getsus scowled, glaring at the dragon-riding figure high above.
Of course he recognized him. Team Plasma had once sent N and Kolres to Kanto. He knew exactly who this was. Lance! Why are you here? Getsus demanded, livid. After everything, they'd been hiding and licking their wounds, and now someone had come to knock on their door? Kick it down, more like. Aerodactyl descended slightly, but Lance didn't spare Getsus a glance. His eyes locked onto N.
N, the one who commands the Black Dragon, Zekrom, he asked icily.
Getsus's face darkened further. This arrogant man dared to ignore him?
Yes, N said softly, lifting his gaze to meet Lance's.
Then give it to me. Lance didn't mince words.
His eyes were sharp as blades.
Give me Zekrom. A person like you doesn't deserve it. He didn't hide his disdain. He needed a legendary.
With the Black Dragon of Ideals, Zekrom, he could finally destroy the rocket boss. The Dragon of Ideals helped chosen heroes create the world they dream of, and Lance had a dream.
A world free of evil. Team Rocket must die.
Those who harm Pokemon and nature must die. Those consumed by greed and darkness must die.
N's eyes dimmed.
Lance's words struck at his soul.
After so many conversations with Alder, he'd begun to doubt everything. Was his dream really right? If it was, why had it shattered so easily when faced with reality? Did he truly deserve Zekrom? Arrogant fool. Lance, what do you think we are? Getsus roared. This was too much. First Dylan, now Lance. How dare he just demand Zekrom? You noisy piece of garbage. Lance finally spared him a glance and icy glare. Did I say I was talking to you?
Under his cloak, his blackened gaze held not a shred of emotion.
Filthy trash should be cleaned up.
The twin Dragonair lowered their heads. Their mouths lit up with pulsing energy, dragon pulse. The beams of dragon energy exploded downward, straight at Getsus. His pupils shrank in horror. Death approached. He's attacking me? Is he trying to kill me? Isn't he a champion? If you won't hand over the Black Dragon, I'll wipe all of Team Plasma off the map. Lance's voice was cold and absolute. He no longer looked human. The attack screamed toward Getsus, who stood frozen in place, unable to move. Zekrom, N whispered. Boom! A bolt of blue lightning slammed down, intercepting the dragon pulses mid-air. The shockwave blasted outward violently. There you are. Black Dragon. Lance looked up, eyes burning. Above, clouds swirled around the mighty form of Zekrom, his true target. That's it, N. Take him down. Getsus's twisted face contorted further. First Dylan, now Lance, these arrogant fools. N glanced at Getsus with deep disappointment. Raising his hand, a resonant dragon cry echoed through the sky. From the clouds, the Black Dragon descended, landing protectively before N. Zekrom is my partner, N said, meeting Lance's eyes. For a moment, there was clarity in his gaze. Lance snorted, arms crossed, looking down at N. Oh? And what makes you worthy of Zekrom? He hated evil organizations. Even if Team Plasma wasn't as grotesque as Rocket's gene experiments, they were still the same kind of scum in his eyes. And N, as their so-called king, was no exception.
A world where Pokemon and humans are separated? Absurd. Only a fool would believe that. Even Lance, who fought for Pokemon's freedom, found that notion laughable. He acknowledged Pokemon suffered. He fought for their justice. But to separate them from humanity? Please. You're just hiding your dirty ambitions behind flowery ideals. Rats from the sewers, still rats. And clenched his fists. I never thought like that. I know, Lance replied evenly. My Viridian powers tell me your intentions toward Pokemon are pure. But that doesn't change the fact that you're a puppet. He smiled bitterly. His sharp instincts told him N was genuine, but that only made it worse. A supposed hero of ideals Zekrum's chosen, used as someone else's pawn. You're unworthy. I am the one most suited to wield the Black Dragon. Zekrom is my friend, N said softly, his eyes dulling again. Oh, I see. Lance's smile twisted. He swept his gaze across the plasma crowd like a predator sizing up its prey. Perfect. I'll just kill all of you. If he wanted to win Zekrom's favor, he'd prove his worth the old-fashioned way. Back in Rhoda. What's wrong, Dylan? You look like something's up. Stephen and the others had come out to the garden for breakfast. Wallace was the first to ask. Lance went to Unova. He's after N, Dylan replied honestly. Technically, Lance hadn't done anything too outrageous yet besides not filing the proper permissions. Wow, what a workaholic, Wallace chuckled. Lance really was the model champion. If he wasn't fighting Team Rocket, he was on his way to fight Team Rocket. Now that they were gone, he'd moved on to Plasma. No complaints. Just respect. There must be a reason, right? Stephen asked. There is, but I don't know if he'll succeed, Dylan said vaguely. The others understood and didn't press further. Come on, let's eat. My sister brought breakfast from the street market. The air was cool and fresh, and the garden was serene, lush greenery, calm ponds, blooming flowers, and joyful Pokemon. Man, you really know how to live, Stephen sighed with envy. If Wallace hadn't shoved me back into the champion seat, I'd be a free man like you. I heard Dylan even works 5 days a week with weekends off, Wallace added. When I was a gym leader, I still had to run contests. Now this is luxury. I don't really have grand ambitions. I enjoy helping challengers now and then, exploring the world in my spare time. That's enough for me. If you take on too many responsibilities, life may be fulfilling, but it's also exhausting. Dylan smiled gently. Well said, Geeta agreed. Her role made her a little hypocritical, but she loved her work too. As Paldea's champion and chairwoman, she found joy in leading a thriving region. No wonder you never became Kanto's champion, Stephen noted. What about the World Championship next year? I'll be there. If I get to face you guys, it'll be fun. Fun? No way. Wallace waved his hands frantically. He really didn't want to fight Dylan. That's a guaranteed loss. Oh, I'd love to meet you in battle, Wallace, Dylan smirked. I'll show you the power of a full water-type lineup. That's right. An all-water team led by Primal Kyogre and Palkia. He didn't have them yet, but he would. You're serious? Absolutely. Well then. You'll see my new water team in action, too. Wallace was confident. If it's water versus water, he was the best in the world before Dylan. Dylan chuckled. Oh, right. None of you have found your main megastones yet, right? He pulled out a few glittering gems from his pocket. Garchompite, Metagrossite, and Gyarados. Sorry, Geeta, your aces can't mega-evolve yet. He handed the stones over. Dylan. This is too generous, Stephen said. I can't accept it, Cynthia added gently. Don't worry, I'm a descendant of the meteor people. I've got plenty of these. Rather than hoard them, he'd rather build goodwill with people he respected. If it really bothers you, just pay me the market price. Dylan offered.
Alright, Steven hesitated, then handed him a card and whispered the pin.
He knew Dylan was gifting them, but Mega Evolution was a huge upgrade. Let's all give it our best.
I hope to see you in the Masters 8 next year.
Dylan looked at them warmly. Next year's World Championship would be intense. The protagonists from every region would have grown up by then. Would these four make it to the top? Well,
Wallace was probably the least likely.
If he cracked the top 20, that'd be a win. Chapter 288, Dylan's Ice-type team build. That's as far as we go, Dylan. Come visit Hoenn again sometime.
At the edge of Rota, Steven smiled as he waved goodbye. It was time, they were heading home. After all, this trip to Kanto had been about wiping out Team Rocket. Now that Kanto's Team Rocket had been dismantled, there was no reason to stay. Not to mention, Steven, Gita, and Cynthia were all reigning champions of their regions, and Gita was also a league chairperson.
They couldn't remain away for long.
All right. I'll definitely visit again, Dylan said with a smile.
Oh, right, Cynthia, there's a place in Sinnoh called Machina, right? Dylan suddenly remembered something and turned to Cynthia. Yes, I've been there. Cynthia nodded after a moment's thought. She was passionate about mythology and history and often explored ruins linked to Sinnoh's legendary Pokemon. The ruins at Machina were one such place.
She'd been there herself.
And the current guardian of the Machina ruins is Lady Sheena, isn't it? Correct. Cynthia nodded again. I see. Dylan looked thoughtful.
Sheena, as depicted in the movie, was Machina's present-day guardian and a descendant of Deimos. She possessed the power of understanding, allowing her to communicate with the deities of time and space. After seeing the others off, Dylan returned to the Rota gym. A trip to Sinnoh was definitely in order. He needed to confirm whether Machina's history mirrored the movies, whether Arceus had been betrayed by Deimos and now harbored hatred for humans. If that were true, he had to be ready. Right now, though, he was pretty curious how things were going with Lance.
Unova region.
The ruins of the old Unova League HQ were now a smoldering wasteland. When Alder arrived on site, the devastation left him stunned. The towering plasma castle had been reduced to rubble, nearly unrecognizable. All around were the wounded, Getsus included. But of N, there was no sign.
And Lance? Alder frowned.
The intel he'd received said Lance had found Team Plasma's hideout and engaged in battle with N. But judging by the scene before him, he'd arrived too late.
And?
Alder's gaze fell on Getsus, who sat mumbling incoherently, looking completely unhinged.
What happened to him? Did he lose his mind? Arrest them all, Alder ordered. The Officer Jenny squad swept in and apprehended the surviving Plasma members.
Alder stepped over the battlefield, even seeing a few gravely injured grunts.
It was brutal. Alder's face tightened. Yes, Team Plasma was a criminal group, but Lance hadn't held back at all.
His attacks clearly hadn't considered the lives of those involved. He'd heard of Lance's hatred for evil organizations, but now, he truly understood the depth of it.
BZZZ. His phone rang. The call led Alder to Dragon Spiral Tower in northern Iciris City.
At the riverbank near the tower, he found a familiar green-haired youth in white N.
Alder. N.
N turned to face him as he approached.
Where's Lance? I went to Victory Road, it was in ruins.
He and I fought, N said, a mix of sorrow and calm in his voice.
And the result? I'm no match for him. Lance is incredibly powerful. N shook his head, hiding nothing. Even with Zekrom, he couldn't match Lance.
As a top-tier champion, Lance's full team was on a different level. Especially now that he had a giant Dragonite on top of his core team of Dragonites and Dragonairs. Zekrom was strong, but against such relentless assaults, N and Zekrom had no choice but to retreat. Team Plasma, meanwhile, had suffered heavy losses.
Lance's attacks were indiscriminate, pure shock and awe devastation.
That was why Yen had taken Zekrom and led Lance away to spare the others.
He's that strong? Alder was shocked. That was Zekrom, a legendary Pokemon.
He was suddenly very glad he hadn't tried to stop Lance like those council members suggested. If he'd tried to stand in Lance's way, he'd have been crushed. I brought him here, and we had another conversation. And looked up at the ancient tower, the same place he'd once awakened Zekrom. My ideals were false.
I'm sure of it now.
A bitter smile touched his lips. What a joke, right? Everything he'd built his life around turned out to be based on a lie. That was the hardest truth to swallow. But your heart was always true, N. What you saw wasn't false, it was just incomplete. Alder's voice was firm. Gets us twisted the truth to guide you toward an extreme version of your ideals, but your original wish was noble.
To make Pokemon happy, that's never a bad thing.
You just need a better way to pursue it.
And we can work on that together.
I'll keep trying, N said, pressing his lips together. But now his eyes no longer held that dim, defeated light, only clarity and resolve. A faint smile graced his face.
Alder, can I join you? You want to join the Unova League?
Alder's eyes lit up. Yes. I want to make the world a better place.
I want Pokemon to be truly happy. And I know now I can't do that alone.
That's wonderful, N.
The League welcomes you. But what about Lance?
He's gone.
N shook his head. But I think Lance himself is the dangerous one.
What do you mean?
I gave Zekrom to him.
What?
He told me his ideals. I didn't reject them.
So I returned Zekrom to its dormant stone form and let him awaken it anew.
N calmly explained.
He couldn't defeat Lance, but during their encounter, they'd had a genuine conversation. And for the first time, N truly understood Lance's goal. His own ideals had been misguided.
But Lance's?
They were real. Harsh. But possible.
And wanted to see if Lance could pull it off, if Zekrom could help him destroy evil.
You just handed Zekrom over?
Alder was stunned. That's a legendary, N. If he fails to realize his ideals, Zekrom will return to me.
That's what we agreed upon after communing with Zekrom, N said gently. Lance is cold, even cruel, but I felt his heart was in the right place.
Still, his thinking is too extreme. I agree. Alder nodded.
What had happened at Victory Road had made that painfully clear. I hope I'm wrong, inside.
But I don't think Lance will succeed.
He reminded N of his past self, trapped in extremes. No, Lance might have sunk even deeper. Lance's hatred of evil was obsessive.
But strangely enough, he was still logical in his own way.
N couldn't bring himself to condemn him.
Who could say hating evil was wrong?
Especially when N knew many still saw him as a villain.
Days passed. Lance returned to Kanto a few days ago but said nothing about what happened in Unova.
Soon after reporting in at Indigo Plateau, he vanished again. No one knew where he'd gone.
Back in Rhoda. Gita moves fast, Dylan murmured, holding 2 Pokeballs. Though, Cynthia was just as quick. Come on out.
He tossed 3 Pokeballs, summoning 3 Pokemon. On the left was a snowy white larval creature, insect-like with big black eyes and a body covered in ice crystals.
A bug/ice type, Snom. Deep Snom. Type, Ice/Bug. Category, Worm Pokemon.
Ability, Ice Scales.
Moves, Struggle Bug, Powder Snow.
Entry, it can spit out chili silk and hang from tree branches while pretending to be an icicle as it sleeps.
Nice. Dylan nodded.
Its evolution, Frosmoth, had impressive special attack perfect for his ice team. Its dual typing did leave it with 2 4x weaknesses, which was annoying but still worth training. Besides, Frosmoth was gorgeous. Dylan liked that it fit his aesthetic. Next to it was a grayish little creature resembling a mini dinosaur. It had a big nose and a dorsal fin.
Deep Frigibax. Type, Dragon/Ice. Category, Ice Fin Pokemon. Ability, Thermal Exchange. Moves, Dragon Breath, Icy Wind, Dragon Tail, Outrage, Inherited. Entry, lives in rocky or forested areas. It uses its back fin to chill its nest like a freezer. This was the first stage of Paldea's pseudo-legendary, Baxcalibur. Gita had sent over both the Frigibax and the Snum, clearly knowing Dylan would be building an Ice-type team.
The third Pokemon was a shark-like creature with a wide mouth, a giant dorsal fin, and 2 protrusions on its head.
Beep Gibble. Type, Dragon/Ground. Category, Land Shark Pokemon. Ability, Rough Skin. Moves, Bulldoze, Dragon Breath, Sand Attack, Sand Tomb, Iron Head, Inherited. Entry, hides in underground burrows. When prey or enemies pass by, it pounces sometimes too hard and breaks its own teeth. A Gibble. The baby form of Garchomp, sent by Cynthia, she claimed it was one of her race's offspring. Now that was a gift. Both champions clearly knew how to return a favor.
With this, I've nearly collected all the pseudo-legendaries, Dylan chuckled.
Just missing Kamao and Hisuian Gudra.
He crouched down, smiling as he petted the 3 little ones, bonding with them. His collection was nearly complete.
As for the ice types, not that many good ones left.
He frowned, glancing between Snom and Frigibax. He already had 5 Alolan Ninetales. And ice types, while potent offensively, had terrible defensive matchups.
Even Steel, which was the most defensively solid type, couldn't save ice. Steel/Ice? That meant 4x weakness to fire in fighting.
Ice resisted only itself.
That was rough.
Aurorus, forget it. I already have too many weather setters with the Ninetales.
He considered his ice team composition. Frosmoth for special attack, Baxcalibur for physical. Ninetales for weather. Plus Iron Bundle and Articuno.
Weevil's worth training.
Glacian's cute too. He grinned. In the end, he'd just go with the ones he liked best. He already had the strong ones, might as well go with style. Now if only he could track down Qianpao's sealed shrine. Chapter 289, Z-Move.
Time flew by, and another week passed in the blink of an eye. To Dylan, workdays all felt the same, but lately, he'd noticed that challengers seemed to be showing up less and less. Which made sense, the end of the year was fast approaching, and the Indigo Conference was right around the corner. Most qualified trainers had already been confirmed, and they were all focused on intense training regimens to power up their teams. The same was happening across other regions. For a trainer, regional tournaments meant everything. To rise through the ranks and finally claim the championship, that was the ultimate dream. And winning also meant the right to challenge the Elite Four and the reigning champion.
A true badge of honor. But for gym leaders like Dylan, this was the calm season.
As the conference drew near, things slowed down, and soon the gyms would enjoy a well-earned break. This past week hadn't seen any particularly interesting challengers, so Dylan mostly had Silver and Yellow handle the battles. The 2 apprentices had been improving at a frightening pace. At this rate, Dylan figured both would reach Elite Four level by year's end.
Lily, let's head to Alola tomorrow. It was a Friday, and Dylan sat beneath a tree, watching Lily brush Incineroar's fur. Ha? Alola?
Lily tilted her head, puzzled. Then realization hit and her face changed.
Right, Alola.
Her expression turned guilty.
She'd completely forgotten.
Her birth mother was still waiting for her to return and save her. Her brother was still on the run. And here she was, living comfortably in Kanto for 4 whole months now.
Oh no. Are we leaving tomorrow, big brother? Lily asked solemnly.
Her delicate, pretty face was unusually serious. Yes, she had to take care of the Alola situation.
Only then could she return to Kanto with peace of mind.
Kanto was her home now, but she'd never forget Alola.
She'd just temporarily forgotten. Totally not on purpose. Yeah. Let's bring Leaf along, too, Dylan said with a smile. To him, the Alola issue wasn't difficult. It'd be easy to handle.
This trip was more about easing Lily's heart and catching some ultra beasts while they were at it. After all, after spending so much time with Lily, he'd grown really fond of this cute, well-mannered little sister. You really couldn't go wrong with little sisters, they were the definition of Mo.
Let's wrap up your family stuff, so you won't have any regrets, okay? Huh? You already know? Lily blinked, surprised. She'd never told Dylan or their adoptive parents about her birth family. Your mother is Luzaman, right? The Ether Foundation's president? Don't underestimate our intel network, silly. Dylan ruffled her golden hair. Lily had been missing for months now, of course Luzaman was looking for her. After all, Luzaman needed Lily's cosmic to open the ultra wormhole to ultra space. I'm sorry, big brother. I didn't mean to hide it from you. No need to apologize. We're family. Your problems are my problems. I'll always be on your side. Dylan rested a hand gently on her slender shoulder, smiling softly. No matter what it is, I'll help you solve it. You can rely on me, okay? Lily froze, then a wave of warmth flooded her chest. Her clear eyes misted over. Yes. I understand, big brother. She nodded firmly, lips pressed together as she looked up at him. Big brother. What is it? Dylan looked at her, puzzled. Can I hug you? Just once. Lily's cheeks turned a little red. It was her first time making such a bold request. Of course you can, but Lily, you're a young lady now, it's not really a PPR. Before he could finish, Lily had already thrown herself into his arms. You smell like big brother. She buried her face in his chest, wrapping her arms tightly around his waist, taking in his scent. How had she gotten so lucky? Lily silently thanked her past self again. If she hadn't mustered the courage to run away with Cosmic, and then been taken in by kind people, she'd have never met Dylan. Something's off with this girl. Dylan fell into thought. Lily was hugging him tighter and tighter. Wasn't it supposed to be just once? And this didn't feel like the Lily he remembered. She'd always been more shy and reserved. The next day, Rhoda Gym once again hung its leader away sign. Dylan, Leaf, and Lily boarded a plane bound for Alola. Same as before, they arrived at Hawali City on Mele Mele Island, heading to the same seaside villa. This was Dylan's second visit to Alola. Feels so familiar. Lily opened the villa door without hesitation and walked in, a nostalgic look on her face. After all, when she was adopted by Ito and Amelia, this had been her home. Dad and Mom won't be back for a bit, let's rest up first, Dylan said after checking his phone. He sighed. No airport pickup. Again. All right. Leaf, I'll show you my room. Lily said brightly. Sure, I'd love to see it. Moo moo. All right, here, pats for you. Cosmic floated out of Lily's bag, sleepily nudging its way into Dylan's arms with a soft hum. This little one was practically another plushie now. Like some spoiled pig-cat hybrid, all it did was eat candy and nap. Its only real difference from Meowham might be its curiosity, it still wandered sometimes. But even that was becoming rare. When are you going to evolve it? Lunala's psychic voice echoed in Dylan's mind. I kinda like it the way it is. Dylan scratched under Cosmic's chin, smiling at its squinting, blissful face. Lily had actually considered giving Cosmic to him long ago, knowing its final evolution was one of the legendary sun and moon gods. That kind of potential would surely benefit Dylan. But he already had Necrozma and Curum. Another Solgaleo wouldn't change much even if it was cool looking. But Cosmic? It was just too cute. That soft moo-moo melted hearts. Lunala. Was cute supposed to compete with raw power? Besides, without evolution, Cosmic's mind stayed childlike. Every time Lunala connected with it, she felt a bit guilty because she knew it would one day become a Solgaleo. After a while of playing with Cosmic, the front door opened and 3 people entered. Well, if it isn't Kanto's strongest gym leader finally coming to visit.
As soon as he saw Dylan, Ito chuckled.
Thought you'd forgotten about us, it's been months. No way. I've just been busy with gym leader duties.
Hard to travel far, Dylan shrugged. Pfft, save that for someone else, you punk, Ito snorted. You've been showing Lily all around Unova, Kitakami, Paldea, Hoenn, seems like plenty of traveling to me.
Amelia smiled at the banter while setting down armfuls of groceries. Dad! Mom!
Lily came running down the stairs in her sandals, beaming, and gave Amelia a tight hug.
Ah, my sweet girl.
You still video call us every day, Ito grinned proudly.
Though. Lily, have you gained weight? Your face looks rounder. Really? No way. Lily panicked, touching her cheeks.
She had weighed herself this morning.
My beautiful daughter is even prettier now.
Mind your words.
Amelia gave Ito a sharp look. He immediately shrank back in mock fear.
Oh right, Mom, Dad, this is Leaf.
She's a good friend of mine.
Dylan gestured to the girl beside him.
Hello, Uncle, Auntie, Leaf greeted sweetly. This was meeting the parents, right?
My, such a lovely girl. Dylan, this is Professor Kukui, he helped us a lot with launching the Rotom Pokédex line. Ito introduced the third person, a young man in a lab coat with no shirt underneath. Buff, suntanned, and smiling, this was none other than Professor Kukui of the Alola region.
And your Incineroar, it's the offspring of Kukui's own Incineroar. Professor Kukui, it's an honor.
Thank you, Dylan said with a polite handshake. He had great respect for Kukui. The professor was warm, kind, and poured his soul into Alola's development. In the games, his dream was to establish the Pokemon League in Alola. He'd even traveled to Kanto multiple times to try and make it happen, but always failed. At the end of Pokemon Sun and Moon, after defeating the Elite Four, the player battled Kukui, a symbolic champion battle, since Kukui never formally took the title. And if he had, well, he'd have had the shortest reign in league history, since Moon would immediately dethrone him.
No need to thank me. I'm just happy to see Incineroar's line go to a good trainer. Kukui grinned brightly as they shook hands, clearly interested in Dylan. I've heard all about you from Ito and from tourists all over. You're pretty famous, Dylan. You've made Incineroar so popular, it's getting hard to find wild Litten out there. Kukui joked, but it was true. Ever since Dylan showcased Incineroar's Sunlight Blitz moves, countless trainers had flocked to Alola searching for Litten. Wild Litten were practically extinct in the region now. Dylan had turned Incineroar into a top-tier fan favorite.
Even though it was already strong to begin with, he'd pushed it to new heights.
Dylan
scratched his head awkwardly.
Just teasing. Dylan, everyone's calling you the strongest gym leader in Kanto now. How about I challenge your gym someday? Kukui's smile gleamed with excitement. Unlike in the anime, Kukui didn't hide his prowess.
In the games, he outright told the player he'd challenged Kanto gyms and lost to a certain Cape Dragon-type expert. And while I'm at it, I'd love to show you Alola's signature Z-moves. They're one of our region's unique power-boosting techniques.
Kukui grinned with pride. Z-moves, the pride of Alola. Chapter 290, A Reliable Back. I'm looking forward to it. Dylan raised an eyebrow. A Z-move, huh? Well then, since this is an official gym challenge, Professor Kukui, would you like to draw a type?
He glanced at Lily, and she understood instantly. She pulled a small roulette spinner from her bag.
Draw a type? Kukui caught on quickly. He'd done his research on Rota Gym. Ito and Amelia came closer to get a look as well. The wheel had a ton of type icons on it.
Professor, just press this, Lily said, holding the wheel up to him.
All right. Kukui, clearly intrigued, pressed the button.
The pointer began to spin rapidly.
Whatever it landed on would determine the type Dylan used in battle.
No wonder Rota Gym had become such a sensation, it was even being called the strongest gym in Kanto. The pointer eventually slowed and stopped on a green icon grass type.
Oh. Grass, huh? Looks like I got lucky.
Kukui chuckled, thinking like many others that grass types were relatively easy to deal with. Grass was a classic type, after all, many starter Pokemon were grass type, and there were plenty of grass type trainers and Pokemon out there.
But truly strong grass type specialists? Those were rare. Champions with grass teams were basically non-existent.
Even Elite Four members who used them were few and far between.
That's not true, Professor, my brother's grass team is really strong, Lily said with a smile and a twinkle in her eye. It's very different from what you'd expect. Oh? Kukui's interest deepened. Now I'm really curious to see it for myself. He grinned confidently. He was a champion tier trainer, after all. Could a grass team really give him that much trouble? Let's head out back to the battlefield, dinner can wait, Ito said enthusiastically. He was a trainer himself, not as strong as Dylan or Kukui, but still a respectable ace-level trainer. Battles always excited him. Everyone moved to the large battle court in the villa's backyard, which Ito normally used for training his own Pokemon. Commencing official Rota Gym Battle Challenge. Challenger, Professor Kukui of Alola. Battle rules are 5 versus 5. Gym leader Dylan will send out first and is not allowed to switch Pokemon. The challenge is won if all 5 of Dylan's Pokemon are rendered unable to battle. Begin! Leaf raised a small flag and stepped back, officially starting the match. Now that's professional. Ito gave her a thumbs up. Hee, I've done it a lot at the gym, Leaf replied modestly, looking a little shy around Dylan's parents. Leaf sometimes helps my brother as a referee, Lily added with a smile. Oh, makes sense. Ito and Amelia exchanged a knowing glance. On the battlefield. Dylan, don't go easy just because I'm a professor. I'm the real deal, Kukui said, adjusting his cap and grinning. He wasn't kidding. Among native Alolans, Kukui was easily the strongest trainer in the region. Don't worry, Professor. I take every challenger seriously, Dylan replied with a calm smile. And since this is your first time challenging Rota Gym, please allow me a proper introduction. He straightened his collar, his smile gentle. I'm Dylan, leader of Rota Gym. I specialize in all types, and today, I'll be using a grass-type team against you. Grass-type Pokemon are wonderful. They're cute, resilient, and possess a tenacity that can astonish even the toughest opponents. Are you ready, Professor Kukui? Dylan gracefully pulled on a black glove, a pokeball enlarging in his palm as he tilted his head slightly to the side. Kukui grinned wider. Alola might not have gyms, but he'd challenged gyms elsewhere before. Still, he'd never encountered a leader with such flair. This guy was interesting. Very interesting. Kids really got the act down these days, Ito muttered, hand on his chin. Compared to the last time with Zinnia, Dylan's whole entrance was even smoother. He really knew how to make an impression. That's my son. Smooth and stylish. Well then, let's get started. Dylan tossed out his first pokeball. Go, Amoonguss. A flash of light revealed a rather bizarre-looking Pokemon. It resembled a mushroom, with a large, pokeball pattern cap and 2 similarly patterned arm shields. Its grayish stalk-like body was topped with a scowling face and a wide, pink mouth. To put it nicely, it looked kind of creepy. Ding Amoonguss. Grass/poison type. Mushroom Pokemon. Ability, Effect Spore. Moves, Spore, Solar Beam, Toxic, Rage Powder, Giga Drain, Synthesis, Pollen Puff. It swings its cap-like arms in a luring dance to attract prey. Prefers dark, damp places. Listening to the Rotom Pokédex, Ito fell silent. This thing is part of the main team? Amoonguss, huh? Kukui mused, then threw out his own first choice. Incineroar. A flash of white, and a powerful, menacing Incineroar stood proudly at Kukui's side. Unfortunately, this one had Blaze, not Intimidate, so no attack drop for Amoonguss. Still, this was likely Kukui's ace Pokemon.
As the challenger, please take the first move, Professor.
Dylan politely gestured for him to begin. Alright then, Incineroar.
Kukui's voice was full of energy as he threw his arm forward.
Parting shot. Grassy terrain.
Incineroar snarled something sharp and cutting at Amoonguss, whose scowl grew darker. A flash of light surrounded it. Parting shot had lowered both attack and special attack.
Incineroar returned to its Pokeball in a beam of light.
But at the same time, a gentle green glow spread from Amoonguss. Grassy terrain had been activated, softening the loss of offensive power.
Go, Braviary. Kukui's second Pokeball released a majestic eagle Pokemon that soared overhead, letting out a piercing cry. Ding Braviary. Normal/flying type. Valiant Pokemon. Ability, Keen Eye. Moves, Brave Bird, Defog, Air/Crush Claw, Aerial Ace, Sky Attack.
A brave Sky Warrior, respected even more by its peers the more scars it carries.
This Braviary looked strong. Lily's eyes widened slightly.
As an Alolan, she'd heard of Kukui for a long time. Rumor had it he'd once attempted the Island Challenge, but hadn't made it to trial captain. She hadn't expected the same man, now a researcher, to be such a capable champion-tier trainer.
This looks tough. Braviary has the aerial advantage. Amoonguss probably won't even be able to touch it.
Ito rubbed his chin, noting Amoonguss's poor speed.
Flying beats grass. A bad matchup. Dylan showed no concern. As a gym leader, unfavorable matchups were standard practice. Any serious challenger would obviously bring type counters. Braviary, use Aerial Ace.
The eagle let out a fierce cry and swept downward like a bolt of lightning.
Sweet scent. Dylan's command was soft and calm.
Amoonguss twirled its stubby arms, releasing a cloud of pink, sweet-smelling mist all around itself.
Kukui frowned. That wasn't an attack, it was a supportive move, usually used to lower evasion or distract foes. But something about it felt off. Was there something else in that mist?
The pink was thick, and hard to see through.
Maybe he was imagining it. Braviary dove through the scent cloud, slamming into Amoonguss with Aerial Ace.
Amoonguss let out a pained grunt. Flying was super effective, and Braviary had great attack.
Spore, Dylan said, lips curling slightly. No good, Dylan. My Braviary can fly. Kukui grinned.
Spore was powerful, sure, but Braviary could just stay airborne.
Oh?
Professor Kukui, take a closer look.
Kukui glanced at Braviary and suddenly froze.
The eagle was hovering awkwardly, wings faltering as it struggled to stay aloft.
Braviary! What are you doing? Fly, come on. It flapped once or twice, shaking off some of the pink mist. It tried to ascend again, quick and forceful. But Amoonguss's spore was already in motion, bursting forth like a cloud of pollen.
A moment later, Braviary wobbled, and dropped like a rock. It hit the ground with a thud, fast asleep.
Spore sprays sleep-inducing spores to cause the opponent to fall asleep. Yep. Braviary was out cold.
Amoonguss happily bounced over, tapping Braviary's head with one of its mushroom cap arms.
Satisfied that it was in a deep slumber, its wide pink mouth curled into an even creepier grin. It actually put Braviary to sleep? Ito was stunned. Didn't make sense. Braviary was fast and strong, how did Amoonguss even manage? Now Braviary couldn't fight back at all. What happened? Kukui frowned. Was it that sweet scent? If Braviary hadn't lingered near Amoonguss, it should have avoided the spores.
Sweet scent could definitely cause a lapse in guard, but Kukui knew his Braviary, it was too well trained to fall for that. He looked at Dylan, seeking confirmation. It was spores, Dylan said with a soft smile. I mixed a small amount of spore into the sweet scent. Hard to see. Once Braviary breathed it in, it was already too late.
Kukui's frown deepened. So there was something off with that scent. What a reliable back that is. Dylan looked proudly at his Among Us, snoring breviary beside it. Anyone who calls Among Us ugly when its back is this useful will have words. What a strong, skilled, and beautiful back. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.